Now, as we get to, the period after the release of the first record, is when we get into the period of time that people generally consider to be like the origin story of like MF Doom. It's kind of in this
Yep.
period. So
Yep.
the major events being Subroc's passing,
Yeah.
the album being shelved, I guess. I'm not sure, is that the right word for it?
Yeah. There's a lot to it. I mean, I can kind of tell you it chronologically.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. If we could put the timeline
Yeah,
in order
yeah.
for us.
I'm really versed in it because Doom passed, and I wrote this thing for Jonah Hill about it recently, so I got it together. So we make the first record, and it's not a huge success. Third base break up, or they're breaking up, and Search detaches. We have a call. Well, first I get, Business Affairs says it's going to cost X amount of money to pick up the option on this, and it's too expensive, and they're signed through a production company, which is not necessarily super artist friendly. We can make another record, but we don't want to pay the mini max on the second record. So I approached this with Search and Pete, and Pete is agreeable to working something out, and Search isn't necessarily, and he detaches. There's lots of tension between Pete and Search and me at that point in time, and so they kind of detach from. He detaches from the record. At the same time, Karis One is making the Heal record. There is a verse by MC Search on the Heal record on a song that is removed from the album, or the verse is removed from the album because KMD takes offense to it. The gods take offense to it, and it becomes a thing, and it furthers tensions between them. So Search is now detached. He was never seen again while we made the whole record. And I state this all because I'll be really frank about this. He's gonna do a season-long podcast on Doom, and I want to be clear, he had absolutely no involvement in Black Bastards whatsoever.
I see.
And was not seen at all. And before he goes and tells another one of his infamous fables, like writing for Rakim, I want to state what happened. So that is the plain, simple facts of it. So we proceed to make the record after we renegotiate the deal, and Pete is with me writing shotgun. He's manager, half A&R guy. They start making the record. We're not going to make it with Gamble. We're going to make it with a guy named Rich Keller, who did a lot of Beat Nut stuff. He did this Pete Nice solo record. So Rich is a really good engineer. He has a studio in Jersey City. They first start to make the record, Subroc and him. They go upstate to Malachi York's retreat that has a studio.
Wow.
Because I don't know if you know that Dr. York was also he's an R&B singer.
I had no idea about that. That's wild.
Yeah, he made R&B records, and they were part of the Ansar Allah community, devotees of Ansar Allah sect of Islam, and they followed Dr. York. And so they went to upstate to Dr. York's studio and his retreat, and they worked for a while, and they came back with the initial basis of what would become Black Bastards. They come back, and they're gonna start working with Rich. I believe they started working with Rich. And, there was a lot of psychedelics getting done at that time. Things get trippy. Subroc one day decides he found a time machine amongst other wild things and decided to give away a lot of money he had, and we couldn't get it back. And he was fine with it because he had found the key to time travel, amongst other things. It was it was bugged out. They were hanging out with CM a lot up at 97th Street all the time. Cage entered the picture because Cage is the rapper Cage, who is Pete's artist, and him and Sub become really good friends. And Subroc, after a night, I think, of taking acid, but I could be wrong, just chilling, I'm not really sure of the exact specifics, leaves Cage's house in Washington Heights and troops back to Long Island. When he gets back to Long Island, he goes across the Long Island Expressway after taking the LIRR home, and he's hit by a car under mysterious circumstances and killed.
Okay.
19 years old, maybe 20 years old. And he's killed, and we never find out who killed him, and there's a lot of mystery around what happened, some accusations that it was purposeful. No one really knows. I don't really know the minutia around it specifically, but I do know it was a tragic loss, and we're all crushed. Collectively, we had a large group of us who all hung out together, Curious, Bobito, Pete Nice, Gamble, me, the SD50s, all the CM guys, Lord Sear, K-Nit, who passed away, rest in peace, my man Paul, a lot of us, we're all very hurt by what happened, and it's tragic when, a young person who has so much to live for is killed. And, it threw everything upside down, man. Everything was, everything gets put on hold for a minute. I remember that they didn't really have enough money to pay for their service. Doom was a new father, and we put, I passed the hat at work, and me and Pete paid the difference, and we took care of the service. And I only say that because it'll show you that you don't get rich in a rap game.
Right.
And also because my publicist at Elektra, my two publicists, Doom, they love Doom a lot, and Sub, Beth Jacobson and Shelby Mead helped get the money up to make this happen. So there's a memorial for him in Long Island, and I'm going to say this again because I want to be clear about some things. And there's not a dry eye in the house. And Search showed up and under duress was asked to leave by some people. And Subroc, which I thought was fucked up because I felt like Search was there to pay his respects,
right,
regardless of where you are with each other at that point in time. And this is why I remember it so much. I believe that he should be allowed to pay his respects. Things happen, right? I don't think he ever was malicious, or I should say vindictive, towards KMD. I think he was exploitive, but I don't want to say vindictive or, I don't deem Pete as being exploitive. So, and I say that just to clarify shit, because he's going to go run his story, and I deal with actual facts, and that's that. So, I remember during the service, and Brian Coleman in Check the Technique really told the story well in his book. Doom put a boombox next to the casket and played KMD's music and played some of Black Bastards. And it was very emotional, man. And after the service, there was another altercation involving Search, who tried to pay his respects, and there were some threats levied at him, and he was made to leave, and that closed the door on any involvement he had in Black Bastards whatsoever. So obviously, Doom needs to take a time out. He just lost his brother.
Right.
But he doesn't take a very lengthy time out. And he proceeds to make the rest of the record in Jersey City with Rich Keller at his studio. And Doom was, I don't want to say homeless, but doing a lot of couch surfing, staying with George, stayed with me, stayed with Stretch, stayed with Rich. I don't think he wanted to be in Long Island. So he wasn't, and he was a bit of a vagabond. But never once did he ever talk to me about his brother's death. He was a bit stoic about it.
You're just pushing through.
Right, and finishing a record, and I believe it was a cathartic exercise for him. I wish he was here to talk about it. And the one thing I'll say is that behaviorally, he started to drink more, and his sarcastic nature leveled up. He was more sarcastic than ever, and I believe probably a defense mechanism for all the internal things he was dealing with. But he forged on, and he made the record, and he was fucking with Grimm and them a lot, my man Jay Black, rest in peace, and a bunch of cats from Uptown who are George's people. It was a heavy moment, and they delivered the record right before the holiday. I'd heard the record in pieces. I can't tell you I was in the studio a lot. I was at Chungking with them. I think I went to Rich Keller's studio one time. And I kind of felt like it was important to give Doom space. And I trusted Doom anyway. He knows what he's doing. And he would come and play me mixes. But I wasn't in the studio hands-on a lot. I had a lot of other stuff going on, including the Grand Poobah record that I was very involved in, hands-on and in the studio with. So my time was thin, but you know, Pete was around and I trusted Rich and I got the mixes and I communicated with Doom a lot. He would come and play me mixes, as would Pete, and they delivered the album before the holiday, and the sum of its parts was impressive. I thought a better record than the first one.
A quick question, just a quick question for you, because this album is a lot more like mature than the first one. It's a lot darker, right? So was that darkness present in the first version that they went and did, or did that darkness come out more as Doom was working on it alone?
They didn't do a whole first album, so that they did songs,
right,
and it was definitely more street.
Got you. Okay.
Right. So, and rap music was more street. It had changed. So they weren't, and they were older, right? And they had children, and you know, things happened, right? So, and they were running around with Grimm and Uptown a lot, and they were around a more, you know, more street element at that time. And they were all, you know, they're young black men. So, you know, they're, regardless how playful that first album is, they're still young black men in America. So they're not suckers. They're not soft. You know, they're just conscious. So, you know, life had changed and the music changed to reflect that. So it was going where it was going, but I will say that Sub's passing had Doom explore some darker themes, you know, and I felt like musically it reflected that, the passing of his brother, you know. I mean, that's, you know, you have to understand the relationship was symbiotic between them. It was yin-yang, you know, like, you know, they were damn near telepathic, right? So they spoke their own coded language and they could speak without communicating, and it was, you know, they had as close a bond as I've seen with brothers ever, and more like twins than brothers, definitely in yin-yang, and you know, his part of him was gone, right? And he said that to me one time later on. He was like, when I was like, man, you know, I miss Sub, and he was like, Sub's still here, right here, you know, because I think he felt that Sub was still with him, and in a lot of ways he was, spiritually, and he, you know, they delivered the record. Sub did a lot of the production on it, which people don't know. He did a lot of it and made a lot of it initially at George's house. He had the MP up there, and he produced a lot of the beats and finished a lot of them, was very involved in the production of it. And now Doom had to do what Sub usually did. It was his turn to finish it. And he did, and they gave me the record, him and Pete, and I listened to it over, I got a couple days before vacation, the holiday break. I thought it was great. I really, really liked it. I thought it was a special record. I thought that they had leveled up.
Absolutely.
And I felt like it was in keeping with the times. It had a competitive chance. I thought it would be bigger than the first record. They had grown in stature a bit. And I know people who had the record. John Schechter, I gave him a copy, I believe, and I think Stretch had it. I know Bob had it, Pete had it, and the consensus was that it was a much better record. And I remember John Schechter, from the source particularly, loving it. He was a champion of KMD, and I have to give him a shout out for always being a champion of KMD before it was a cool thing to do. He delivered the artwork, I believe, post the holiday. We got the finished artwork. I had scheduled a mastering session. Delivered the artwork as always. He did all the artwork, and you know, he was playing on the game Hangman.
Right.
You know, so it was a cryptic message to the world, black bastards, and he was killing Sambo, meaning Sambo was gone, and I believe he was probably going to move on to a different logo, but I can't tell you because it never happened. And you know, he was killing the myth of Sambo, putting it to rest. Right? And I think when you look at the artwork, it's a powerful statement.
Right.
As was most things Doom did. He's a very special person. And he had a lot to say. And he was saying it in his own cryptic language. But, you know, man, that shit was powerful, man. And, you know, Black Bastards. It's like make you shake your head, make you laugh. Can't believe that motherfucker did that. That's wild. But it was great. And it was approved by my art department. There was no pushback. Advances went out. I believe we shot a video, and I can never really remember if we did it in, but for what a end knows, and which is a controversial title. Advances were sent out, and Havelock Nelson and Terry Rossi. Havelock wrote the rap column, the first rap column for Billboard, and Terry Rossi wrote for the Monday Morning Monitor, which was a radio recap. She had written the R&B column. They were reporters for Billboard, and I believe Havelock came first, but Terry Rossi came first, I think. And she had more juice. But Havelock, who was a friend of mine, I thought, threw it to the wolves and said that we were irresponsible, the label, meaning we were irresponsible in putting the record out.
He printed this?
And he printed it, and
In
he
Billboard?
can pull it up. Yeah, I can even send you a link to it. He printed it and said he couldn't believe how irresponsible the powers that be at Elektra Records were for ordaining the cover art and a record called Black Bastards, the single called What a End Knows. In doing so, he, I believe, called for my head, in a sense. You know, because if anyone's irresponsible when it comes to the rap music at Elektra Records, it's Dante Ross.
Right.
And I thought it was foul. And he could have picked up the phone and talked to me or talked to Doom or Pete. He knew all of us. And he didn't even try to do that.
Do you feel like
ask Doom,
he was misinterpreting the theme?
Of course he was.
Okay.
Of course he was. He never had, I've talked to Havelock about it, and to his credit, he owns it. Like, and I got to give him respect for that because, you know, we had some discourse a couple of years ago, and I said, yo, man, you know, I'm just going to tell you, you threw, you know, my man to the wolves, and you never, and this is before Doom passed, and I said, you never gave him a chance to defend his art. You never had any dialogue, any discourse with him to find out his point of view. You just convicted him without knowledge of what was going on. It was conviction without investigation, and I don't respect it. It's bullshit journalism. And he copped to it, you know, but you know, point taken, it came out and feathers were ruffled. Ice-T's debacle had been 1 year earlier.
So this was, okay.
So, and he was part of Warner Music Group. That was on
That's
Sire.
the same basic label family as Elektra.
Right, exactly. We're all we at that time. Now it's Warner Music Group. It was we at Warner Electric Atlantic. And feathers were ruffled, man. And Terry Rossi and Havelock, and I didn't know Terry Rossi, and she's an R&B person. She also was critical about the record, and she caused a big sting. And she was connected to a lot of big dogs in the music industry. I think a lot of black urban heads of departments at various labels knew her well. And within Warner, within WEA rather, there was a lot of concern and contentious feelings about the artwork.
And her problem was also with the artwork, or her problem was with the album itself?
The artwork.
Okay.
It stemmed from the artwork. I don't think, you know, I'll be honest, I don't think she ever listened to the album.
See, that's the part that really sucks.
Yeah, and I don't know if Havelock did either. Look, if you had listened to the album, you would probably understand the rhetoric and the discourse he's talking about. Hard not to. On top of it, the insensitivity. My man had just lost his brother 6 months prior. Maybe you want to talk to the brother. And look, man, it's awkward for me to say some of this stuff, but as a white man, but I felt like they did a young black man a great disservice. And I felt it was very irresponsible as black men and women, elders, to have treated him as such. And the offense that occurred has never been forgiven by me. It has always bothered me, and it will probably bother me to the day I die, because I believe that my job as an art person is to defend my artist's artwork. Art, period. Artwork, messaging, point of view. And so, you know, that's what I do and did. And they didn't do the proper investigation. They didn't do the proper research to find out what was really going on. So, my boss called me, Bob Krasnow, who died, rest in peace. He's been vilified a little bit in this, but he doesn't deserve to be. He told me straight up that there was a lot of concern over the record and that the group was going to have to change their artwork, that they couldn't issue the artwork as was. And I delivered this news that there was a lot of concern about it, and we were supposedly going to be granted an audience with the people in power at WMG, including the highest ranking black people within the WIA organization. And it was to include, I was told, Sylvia Rohn, Dick Parsons, Merlin Bob, Vincent Davis, who had a label deal through Elektra, and a couple other people. I was told that Vincent Davis found the artwork offensive, as did Sylvia Rohn. This has never been confirmed. I can't tell you for sure if this is fact. And no knock on either of those people. I have nothing but respect for them. But so we were going to have a tete-a-tete with these people. And, Sire Records had the year earlier came out the gate saying we will not bow to censorship. Howie Klein sent an infamous letter around that went to everyone in the company. And it said, we are not bowing to censorship. The PBA will not censor our art. And they turned around and they bowed down. And the PBA and Dan Quayle, who was the vice president at the time, basically destroyed Ice-T's relationship at Sire Records, and Body Count's record never came out, or it came out and got taken off shelves. So we were the fallout of that. I think my boss envisioned it as being part two. So we were going to have this big meeting, and it was at like 8 in the morning or 9 in the morning, and that was an ungodly time for me or Doom to be awake and alert, but we showed up, and we got called to Krasnow's office. He told me the meeting was canceled. He called me in first. Whoa. He said the meeting is canceled, and we're not going to put the record out. We're gonna give the kid back his record. I said, well, he's in my office here for the meeting. And he said, well, to his credit, he said, well, there was a little more to it. I was like, this is fucking bullshit. And he goes, Dante, it is bullshit, and bullshit rolls downhill. And today it's rolling your way. I'll never forget he told me that. And then later on, he told me some other things, but I'll get to that later. So I want to grab Doom, and Doom knew something was up by the look on my face, and we went in the office, and he told us, we're not going to be able to put the record out. And the meeting's canceled. We're not going to be able to put the record out, and we're going to give you back your masters. In addition, we'll give you a fee for leaving the label of $25,000. It's either 20 or 25. So Doom handled it like a champ. It was brief. I will give Krasnow credit. He looked him in the eye and told him it. And Bob Krasnow was like a legendary music figure. He signed Keith Sweat. Not Keith Sweat, Anita Baker, Parliament Funkadelic, Richard Pryor. He worked for James Brown. He was a heavy guy who loved black music. He was a maverick, and I would find out later that he was on the ropes at Elektra. He couldn't fight the battle. He had signed Dokken for an ungodly amount of money and Huey Lewis and the News, and they both tanked, as well as a box set by Metallica. And they had never loved him anyway, and they were trying to get rid of him. And he would later tell me that, I just can't fight this fight right now, I'm on the ropes. And he would be relieved of his job less than a year later and replaced by Sylvia Rohn. So, we went back to my office after this happened, and I was fucking pissed. And I got a bad temper, and I was fucking pissed. Doom, surprisingly, wasn't pissed. And I remember him saying to me, so I had this case of wine someone gave me for my, for the holidays or something, and it was sitting there, sweet premium wine. I had 2 cases of it, and he would always come in and drink my sweet premium wine. I didn't drink wine much. And that was as good a day to start drinking wine as ever. And we started drinking. And he told me he didn't hold me responsible, and that he said I should get dropped more often. I got my record back in $25,000. And he laughed.
Drop more often.
And I was like, Jesus Christ. In retrospect, I realized it was a small thing to losing your brother, losing your record deal.
Right, the scale of that.
And I always say that Doom died 3 times. The third time being the finite one. His death was in 3 acts. A part of him died when Subroc died. I think a part of him died when KMD lost their record deal. And then the third and final act is when he physically passed. So, I thought about that a lot when he passed. And look, man, Doom he is, and once again, I have to tread lightly on some of what I say. As a white man, it's not necessarily my place to speak on certain things, but I feel that I can speak on this. Doom to me is a manifestation of a young black man in America. He took all the shit in the world sent his way, his brother dying, losing his record deal, and reemerged from that pain and injustice to create an alter ego based on this pain and suffering, MF Doom, and become a much bigger and more important artist than he may have been if he was KMD. And I think that black people traditionally take the shit handed to them and create beautiful art. That is the blues. And to me, Doom's life is, it's kind of the blues.
Right. Man.
I got to take a sec.
Yeah, for sure.
I gotta just chill for a minute.
No problem.
It's hard to talk about.
That's totally understand.
Yeah, I'm good.
So part of what's fascinating about this story is how quickly this escalated from being just about an album cover to not only is the album not coming out, which nobody has a problem with the music, and they're being released from the deal. Like, why do you think that escalated so quickly? It doesn't even sound like anybody was like, it doesn't sound like Doom had the opportunity to be like, okay, well, I'll just change the cover. It's like before he knew it, everything was gone.
I think people were scared. I think they were scared that Cop Killer Part 2 was coming. I think, though it's never been confirmed, I believe that Krasnow probably buckled. He told me initially, like, I'm defending this, like I defend you and your vision. He never listened to the record, but he's like, I'm defending you because I know you believe in this. And I believe that he didn't feel empowered enough to defend me, and he made the decision probably at the behest of a higher up in the WIA organization, Bob Mercado or Gerard Levin or Dick Parsons, put the clamps on him, and he wasn't going to fight the fight. So before anyone was given the opportunity to fight the fight, he nipped it in the bud because he was going to lose the fight. That's what I believe happened. But I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know exactly what happened, the intricacies of it. I was never let in behind the closed doors of what occurred. I will tell you that I contemplated quitting my job in a later meeting with him. We got into it, and I told him he should have never signed that piece of shit Huey, that no talent bum Huey Lewis. I was like, well, I mean, you signed that fucking bum Huey Lewis, and he was like, he didn't really appreciate that. I thought I might get fired. I didn't. I thought that I contemplated quitting. I didn't. John Schechter interviewed me for The Source, where he wrote an editorial piece about it. I spoke my mind. I was warned by people not to. I did anyway. My boss, Bob Krasnow, did not fire me. I think he knew that I was probably right, and he also knew he couldn't do shit about it. And look, this is one of the times I learned about the music business. Shit ain't fair. It's called a business, right? So
how close did this album get to coming out? Like, did it have a release date and all of that?
It had a release date. Had a release date. Had everything. Release date, artwork. I believe that there's promos with no cover. So the promo tape went out without the artwork. Pete Nice has the approved artwork. He sent me a scan of it not that long ago for my book. And it's out there. It was out there. People had the record. It was, like a lot of people have that tape. That tape is not that rare. So, it was on the schedule. it was coming. It would have been out in, I don't know, 6 weeks after the single, 4 weeks after. It was in production. It wasn't in production, but it was everything short of going into full production.
So it's around this time that Zeb kind of disappears. Zev Love X. It's kind of
He
off the scene.
disappears. He was living in Midtown. He lived in Hell's Kitchen on 9th Avenue. Yeah, man, I didn't see him a whole lot. I know he stayed with Stretch for a while. He was working on shit up there. Stretch had a little studio. I didn't see him a whole lot for the next few years. When I did see him, though, it was all love. There was never any contentious feelings whatsoever. I believe that he knew that I did everything within my power to defend him, and I did.
Thanks for watching that, and if you dug that, leave a thumbs up and say what up in the comments, and make sure to subscribe to Stony Island Audio for more.